Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Piera and today we're talking about Darkdawn by Kristoff. So for those of you who do not know, Darkdawn is the third and final book in the Nevernight Chronicles. It wraps up the journey of our protagonist Mia Corvair and ultimately ends in her death. That is not a spoiler, that is literally on page 1 of book 1. I have a review to book 1 and book 2, which I will link above. If you haven't read book 1, I don't know what you're doing here. This video will contain spoilers and non-spoilers, mostly spoilers, so if you haven't read the book and you don't want to be spoiled, I'd just go now and then just read it and come back. So as I said, Darkdawn is the third and final book in my all-time favorite series, the Nevernight Chronicles. I was lucky enough to have read Darkdawn in its beta stage, so back in like July last year, I think Jay sent it to me, and it's very different to what it is in its final form. In that I was able to give some like feedback and like some things that I would have liked to have seen, or like my just general thoughts. I've never been a beta reader before, so I was like fucking honored that it was like my favorite book in the entire world. And then I read it when the art came out, and I didn't want to film my review then because it was still like 2 months early, and I wanted to wait until the final copy came out and I could give my thoughts on the final copy and just kind of keep it all fresh and everything. So obviously I didn't do a live reading reaction vlog because I would have done it with the beta copy, and then a bunch of stuff had changed, so I just kind of wanted to leave it until it had just come out, which is why we're here today. My overall thoughts on Darkdawn. I am satisfied. I think it's a very satisfying ending. I think it's a very bittersweet ending. I think it's the ending Mia deserved. Have lots of thoughts about the stuff that happened in between Mia getting to the ending that she deserved. But overall, I'm happy with how it ended. I feel full of love for my girl and her life and her death and her everything that she ever did. With that said, let's just get into the spoiler section because I just want to talk about my girl. I've taken notes. I don't usually take notes for my reviews, but I took notes. There's a lot of notes. My God, okay. We'll like kind of go through the book. So the first thing, obviously, we open with the very ending of Godsgrave, where Mia has stolen Shannon and she's jumped off into the lake and then swum away through the aqueducts. My first biggest problem, I don't want to say it was like a problem, but like I don't have a brother, right? And I never, like my little sisters are like too young to have really had any sort of relationship with them. Well, that sounds weird. In that sort of sibling bond. Realistically, when Shannon was like 1 or less than 1, the last time him and Mia were together, and Mia was 10. So you can't imagine their relationship was overly close. She thought he was dead for like the last 6 to 8 years. So it's not like she was pining for him or thinking about him or wanting to get him back or anything like that. I feel like that sort of instant love, I mean, it might be, like I said, I don't have a sibling, so it could be a very real thing that I'm just not aware of. But it just seemed that that relationship was very quickly solidified. And not so, it was more Mia's love for Shannon. Like, Shannon was like, nah, fuck off, bitch, I don't want anything to do with you. Whereas Mia was like, I love you, and I'm gonna protect you, and I'm gonna be there for you. And Shannon's like, who the fuck are you, you creepy bitch, leave me alone. So I found that really interesting. That was one of my first notes that I sent Jay, and I was like, is this too much too soon? Like, I don't know the relationships between, she's 18 at this point, an 18-year-old woman and her 9-year-old brother, who I'm pretty sure he would have had to have been 10 by this point. I don't know, my math is off, but I was just like, I don't get it. And obviously that evolves as we go through the book. I digress. In that, she said I love you to him very quickly. Like, she hasn't seen him in 10 years. She thought he was dead. He's essentially a stranger, and a stranger who's not very nice to her, and she's like, I love you. And like, that's the first time I think Mia's even said I love you, apart from like Mercurio at some point, but she's just like, I love you. And I was like, I just feel like our girl isn't full of love. I don't know. That was my only real qualm with that. And then moving on, we get Mercurio is obviously in the hands of Drusilla, and Mercurio's opening line to Drusilla is, hello, you murderous old cunt. My man. And like, Mercurio and Drusilla were definitely fucking back in their prime, which was cool to, not like, yeah, that's not cool, but like to see Mercurio kind of playing into the world. Like, we forget that he also went to the Red Church, so he also, you know, is of Drusilla's age and all that sort of stuff, which I found really cool. And now some of you have already tweeted me and you found it, but on page 23, your bitch is a footnote. I made a joke to Jay once that I was like, oh, my name's, if you're ever stuck for fantasy names for Italian book, my name is super Italian. It would fit perfectly in the Nevernight world. I meant my fucking first name, Jay, not my goddamn last name. Ford is the widest name you could possibly find apart from like Smith. That's me. I'm a whole half-page footnote right there. A blade known only as Ford. That's me, motherfucker. I am immortal. So, but that was sweet. That was kind of him to do. I didn't expect it. I thought it was funny when I read it, and I was like, bless you, Kristoff, bless you. So, within the first couple chapters, we find that Nevernight is a book within a book, which was super fucking meta and confused the hell out of me. I was like, so you're telling me in this world, in this magic library, that the Nevernight book, these books, looking like this, are in the story. And it took me a minute to like wrap my head around, because I was just like, I don't know if I like it or I hate it. When I first read the beta, I was like, it's cheap and I don't like it. Now I'm kind of into it, especially when we find that the narrator, drumroll please, that's my drumroll, is Mercurio, which I kind of picked. I remember when I first read Nevernight, I thought it would be Mercurio, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's Trick, but then kind of as we got to know Trick, I was like, nah, maybe not, and I never thought it was Ash, and Mr. Kindly, I was like, maybe, but I don't know. But Mercurio, it wasn't like a big whoa reveal for me. I was like, yes, sick, picked it, nice. So I felt good about that. And it's interesting, if you watch my interview with Jay, which I have linked above, Jay says that he didn't know who the narrator was until like halfway through book 2, towards the end of book 2, because it obviously shapes book 3 very early on. So I thought that was really interesting, and I forgot to ask which other ways it could have gone, and now I'm gonna go back and ask him. One thing for some reason I hate in books is when characters just start singing. I don't know why, but when Mia starts singing to Jonan, and I'm just like, bitch, shut up, like you don't sing, you're not a singer. And then Jonan's literally like, you sound like a screeching harpy. And I was like, thank you. Like, I get it, it's all sweet, and oh, when you were younger I would sing to you and calm you. But I'm also just like, stop fucking singing. But so I appreciate that when he bitched about Aline, Mia just backhanded the fuck out of that little bitch. I'm not above spanking children. I'm just kidding. I don't have children. I don't know what that's like. I mean, that is a more Mia reaction to me than saying, I love you, strange boy who I've just found from 10 years of death, to slap a man after he talks about her mother that way. That's just me. Now, Trick. I knew from the beginning Trick wasn't dead. I knew from, I mean, obviously we see him back in Godsgrave. I knew he wasn't dead. So when he comes back in book 3, for some reason I don't remember, even when I read the beta, I don't remember being like, oh my god, like I think I was just like, yeah, good, I'm glad he's back. Why does he now talk like that? I get it, like I get the, like the font wise, but all of a sudden he's like super fucking dramatic. And if you go back to like book 1 Trick, he's not super dramatic, talking all about, fuck it, I get it, like you just come from the underworld and the mother has like gifted you some presents and shit, but he's all like talking about like Mia, your destiny and blah 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 blah. And I just thought, I was like, Trick, you're so dramatic. And throughout the entire book, there's maybe like 3 scenes where he's the old Trick that I fell in love with. And I know he's not supposed to be the old Trick that I fell in love with. He's supposed to be a different version of Trick. But I just remember thinking like, this bitch came back dramatic. This bitch came back from the death to be Sass Queen. Question number 2. I get Mia's like super fit and has just spent like the last few years just like becoming pure muscle. But how is she carrying a 9-year-old boy around? Like, my sister is 6. She's heavy as fuck. Emily is 4 and she's heavy as fuck. And I know I'm no muscular gladiati, but shit. Carrying around a 9-year-old boy, and Mia's short, so that kid is probably almost half the size of her, and she's just carrying him around. Just chain that motherfucker up and pull him with you. And of course, Skaver is her father, and of course he's not dead, and of course he's a Darken with a snake. Because of course he is. Another thing that I did like about this story is that Mia finds out very early on that her parents were quite flawed, which is obviously how she finds out, you know, that Darius Corvair wasn't her real father, that Aelin obviously slept with Skaver, and only, you know, and then Darius was in love with Antonius and all this. Like, she realizes that her parents were flawed. And I find that a really interesting concept, especially in a revenge book where her whole quest was to get revenge for her parents, and then she's kind of questioning, like, is this the right thing to do if my parents were wrong? Sort of thing. So I find that a really interesting concept in a book like this. Now, Cloud. Cloud Corleone is one of my favorite characters in this entire fucking book because he's so fucking funny. I mean, I feel like he could have been funnier, but he's still funny, you know? And because of course we had to add pirates. We've got assassins, we needed pirates, because you can't have assassins without pirates apparently. And I love it, I'm here for it, I'm a fan of pirates. Back to dramatic Trick. He literally goes, I don't sleep, ever, never. Like, cool. It's like, I'll take some air, but you don't breathe. I know. I'll go anyway. You don't even eat. Why do you come to dinner then? Like, he's just so dramatic. So therefore, one of my favorite things was when Cloud met Trick, and one of Cloud's first lines was like, bro, how are you doing that with your voice? Because it says like Trick's voice is like deep and echoey and baritone and is like deep as the sea in Cloud, which is one of the reasons that I love this series so much, is because you've got some characters asking like real legitimate questions and not just falling into the fantasy of it all. So when Trick starts talking, Cloud's like, okay, hold on, how are you doing that with your voice, sort of thing? And I find that funny. And so the whole chapter 12 dinner scene was so funny. Like the tension between Trick and Ash and then Mia and then Cloud and then Jonan and Mia like having to go with Jonan and then him like trying to, you know, muscle her with the shadows and her like being like, nah, fuck off bitch. And I just thought that was funny. It was just funny. And then obviously the whole like past the salt dwarf was funny, and the whole like little man conversation with Big John. That was funny too. I love banter. And then Mia like trying to figure out Cloud's real name, also funny. And then Cloud's story about his brother being like touched by Duomo. I hate that. I'm glad he's dead. Mercurio and Alias, the chronicler, fangirling about Mia's sex life was weird. I feel like I remember it in the beta being more fangirly. Not fangirly, but just there was a lot more of it than like a quick mention. And I remember that being weird. I remember that feeling very male gazy. I didn't mind so much. I knew other people might mind that, but there was just something weird about like, and Mercurio says it, like, I feel like she's my daughter. I don't like reading about those sorts of things. Ew, like I always wondered about how Mr. Kindly was just sitting there chilling while she's like fucking boning the life out of people. Like, does he not have anything to say? Adonai and Marielle, I don't see the hype. I don't see everyone's obsession with Adonai because he's fucking disgusting and he's weird and they talk weird and they just continue. The fact that they played a bigger role in this book annoyed me because I hate the way they talk. I hate it. I hate it so much because half the time I don't even fucking understand what they're saying. And then so when we see Adonai and he's like going down on some chick who's bleeding and Marielle's in the corner masturbating, I'm like, what is this fuckery? And then Mercurio's like, oh, I'll start the conversation once your boner goes down because it's distracting. And I'm just like, I hate all of this. Return of the Gladiati pair with their theater. I loved them. We knew they weren't dead, obviously. I knew they'd play a bigger part, but I was interested. Because, you know, book 1 and book 2 both had such big casts, like a big cast of characters with like all the acolytes, and then you've got all of the Gladiati, and I was wondering how in book 3 that would kind of mesh. I mean, like, I know Jess carved it in like book 2, which surprised me, but in like book 3 you've got like Hush and you've got all of the Shaheeds and everything like that, and then in book 2 you've also got all the Gladiati and they're in book 3, and so when, you know, most of them died, I wasn't surprised. I was kind of like, okay, I was wondering how you were going to maneuver these two very different casts of characters to smoosh and then wrap it up. So, you know, like Wave Waker and Bryn and Butcher, I was just kind of like, yeah, I saw it coming. Like, I don't really care. And even Hush being killed off so early, I was just like, see ya. Trick and Ash's relationship was always going to be a weird one for me. Like, they were constantly, I think even Trick mentions it where Ash was like, oh, she's my girl now, like, I know what she tastes like, and Trick's like, are you trying to rub my nose in it because you're insecure that she'll leave you? I found that pretty petty on Ash. I mean, like, Ash is probably a petty person, but that whole relationship was weird. I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it yet. I haven't figured it out, but it was weird. The whole situation was weird. The whole bathtub scene with Ash and Mia was a treat. Although having a vagina and knowing what it feels like to be intimate in water, ouch. So when the Gladiati are talking about their first times and like Bryn came out of her nose and Bladesinger broke a dick, they asked Trick about his first time and he's like, she was wonderful, and then looks at Mia. Are you telling me that Trick was a virgin before Mia? Because if you're telling me Trick was a virgin before Mia and he died, I don't think I can go on. I don't know if he was a virgin because I feel like there was more pre-Mia, but I don't know now. Now I am confused. Jay, question. Was Trick a virgin? One of the things I found so cool about this book and Mia's powers and the evolution of Mia's powers is when she starts stepping through Eclipse and Mr. Kindly. When she like points them and she steps through them and then out of a wall. That was fucking cool. That was cool. Mia and Mr. Kindly fighting and separating fucking ruined me. Like, I knew it would be something like that, and I found it interesting that we finally got Mia without Mr. Kindly for a while, and then eventually without Eclipse, and she was by herself, and that was a whole other thing, but she was so mad at him, and he, like, I could see where he was coming from, and bitch, with no feelings, was being just overrun with all of her feelings, and it hurt me. So I was sad about that. Trick's confession of love hurt me a lot. When I read that for the first time, I cried. I cried quite a bit during that beta read. The amount of swearing in this book is just right up my alley. Like, I know some people will probably be like, there's a lot of swearing in this book, it's too much. I'm all fucking for it. Because as you know, I swear left, right, and center, and I don't mean anything by it, but it's just nice that it's there. I've got more of just, most of my notes is just Trick is so fucking dramatic. Mia's reaction to being groped, just like a guy just like puts his hand on her boob, and she just like, nah, fucking kills him. My next notes are just, Adonai and Marielle are foul and I hate them. They fucked like war relating to Ash and Mia. And I'm not a fan of reading talking during sex. I don't know why, but when they're just like, oh goddess, oh yes, oh Ash, please, Mia, please. I'm just like, cool, shush now. That, I don't know, that's just me, but it's just, you know, it's like, it's a bit much. Now, I don't understand all this shirtless shit. And I said to Jay, I was like, I'm a woman with tits. And you know, if I liked my tits more, maybe I would be just happy to just have them out 24/7 all through the nip. When she's fighting when they finally get taken to Valdir and she's fighting and she just takes off her shirt, she's fighting with her boobs out. Like, I get the, you know, focus on my tits, not on my hands or my face sort of thing. I get that, but I'm also just kind of like, that would just get in the way. That would just annoy me. And then my favorite part of the whole thing was Valdir is set up to be this like horrible antagonist, this really brutal scoundrel, like motherfucker. Mia kills him in like 3 sentences, and I think that is fucking brilliant, because this is one of those things that you don't expect, because there's all this setup and then she's like, please hold, fucking jumps through a cliff and just beheads him. And it takes a while to behead him as well. So I was all for that. It wasn't just like a nice quick easy kill, and it wasn't like a big dramatic he was the antagonist. Like, she's just like, please hold, I am the queen now, I am the captain now. And then she just sits there on his throne, using his body as a footrest, wearing his cape of faces with her breasts out. And she's like, I think I'm the queen now. Is that how it works? And I love her. I love her. I am the war you cannot win is a quote that I would now live my life by, as well as Ash's quote earlier, which was, whatever doesn't kill me, better fucking run. Those are my 2 quotes. I want them tattooed on my body, put them on my gravestone, name my first children that. That whole sentence is their first name. And then Mia starts getting dramatic and cocky, and I don't love it, but I kind of love it when she's like, I am the war you cannot win. I was like, I love it, but it's weird when you say it. If other people say it about you, it's okay. But when you say it, it's weird. And so when we have any intimate scenes between Mia and Trick, my Mia Trick ship heart is just overjoyed, happiest I've ever been. But then I'm also kind of like, but you're cheating on Ash. And it's a tough one for me. It's a tough one because I don't condone cheating, but I also loved them, and I know like if Ash didn't fucking kill him, they probably would have been together. And so there's all these like weird kind of things around this relationship. So when Mia and Trick are like together, I'm not mad about it. I really enjoy it. Like, I like Mia and Ash together. I don't like Ash as a character, like as a separate entity. And that was one of my comments to Jay, was if you want Mia and Ash to end up together, you need to make me like Ash as much as I liked Trick. And I liked Trick a lot. And in the beta read, it just didn't feel like there was enough of a reason for me to like Ash. Like, she was just there doing whatever Mia wanted, being like, oh, fucking kill this guy for Mia, oh, she's my girl, like I make her come, blah blah blah. I liked Trick because he was the opposite of Mia, whereas Ash is very similar to Mia. I liked Trick because he was different. I just liked Trick a lot, okay? Okay? When Mia and Trick were fighting back to back, that was like my wet dream. And then when Mia stepped through the fucking ocean, she stepped through the sky on those pages where Jay puts like 3 words on a page, you pretentious cock, but like that was just fucking cool. And then when she gets to the end, she like flips off the sky and she's like, still standing, bitches. And I'm like, my girl, my girl. I really liked the fake book. Like, I don't know, you might notice that the text changes towards, at some point in the book, like the font changes, and lots of people were like, oh, is this a printing mistake, is this a printing mistake? And so when I finally got to it, I was like, oh, mine too. But then I realized that it's because it was a fake ending book within a book, and it took me until, you know, like getting there, that I was like, oh, it's not a typo, like that's the reason. I liked the way that the Shaheeds died in the fake ending. Like, Solas's death in the fake ending was fucking sick. Finding out that he's the one who killed Darius was cool. Knave dies, Butcher dies, didn't really care too much. Eclipse dying fucked me up. Jonan, you're a little bitch. I was just starting to like you and you've gone and got Eclipse killed. You fuck. You fuck. And she loved you because you reminded her of Cassius. You fuck. You little bitch. Bitch boy. Little bitch. I don't care if you're 9, you're a little bitch. Drusilla's death was cool, like getting like names carved into her back, like with the whipping and the blood scourging, that was cool. Finding out that Alias / the Chronicler is Cleo's son and was the first Blade, like that was kind of cool. Sid and Blade Sing are fucking, she's like, you want to learn how to row? The fact that she refers to her vagina as a man in a boat was and she's like, you want a rowing lesson? No, Blade Singer. So Mia finally tells Ash that she loves her. She finally says, I love you. And then Ash is like, no you don't. I was like, Ashlyn, will you just shut the fuck up and let her have this? Because then 2 seconds later, you're dead. I like that Mia is constantly like, fuck the gods. Like, she goes up against these gods and she's not just like, oh, I'll do whatever you want, like I'm your vessel. She's like, no, fuck you, I'm living my own life. I like that. I didn't like the whole Ash and Trick saying sorry thing. I thought I would, but I didn't. It didn't work for me. Ash crying didn't work for me. And I know it's supposed to be like a character redemption because like she's this hardened killer and she realizes the error of her ways, but I didn't buy it. I feel like Ash would have no remorse. Like, I don't know. And then that was weird, and her crying was weird, and that's where Jay was going to put that threesome. If you did your pre-order and you sent your receipt in, you got a deleted scene, which was essentially a threesome between Mia, Trick, and Ash, which was fucking great. Weird, considering the dynamics of the relationship, but still fucking great. And then, so when you cut that and just had Ash dying straight away, I was just kind of like, I didn't care. Honestly, I didn't care that Ash died. My first thought was like, oh, he's gone and killed the gays. Oof. So I was a little mad at that. I wasn't mad at that. I was just kind of like, I didn't think she was dead properly. There was nothing about the way it was written that sold me that Ash was like fully dead, not coming back. And now that Trick's come back from the dead, I'm like, this bitch can come back from the dead too. Like, I wasn't convinced that this was the end. Whereas like with Trick, when he died in that first book, and before we knew about any of the possibilities of like people coming back, I was like, he's dead. He's dead. He's straight up dead. He's dead. He's not coming back. And so when Ash died, I was just kind of like, I feel like we've done this before. Like when Maggot died, it was a very similar like flashback to just Maggot dying. Mia and Trick's farewell as Mia goes off to find the crown of the moon, that hurt. Because she's like, kiss me. And he kisses her on the fucking fingers. And she's like, no, fuck this. And it just, I want an alternate universe where they stayed together and were happy forever. If I just read only Nevernight forever up until the part where they fight, do you reckon I could just pretend that that's how it all worked? That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. At that point, when Mia is off to find the crown of the moon, she is truly alone for the first time. Like, she's usually just sent Eclipse and Mr. Kindly away. Like, she's sent them away. But this time she's like gotten rid of Mr. Kindly and Eclipse is dead. So she's alone for the first time in like 10 years, like 9 years, 8 years maybe. She's alone for the first time and like truly alone. And we see her fear, but we also see that she's still not overly fearful. Like, she's now just so used to not being afraid that that's actually become part of her persona. And I like that. I like to think of me as that. You know, you fake it till you make it. You fake strong for so long that you just become strong. Put that on my fucking gravestone, bitch. Don't do that. And so when she finds Mr. Kindly with Cleo and she's like super jealous, I was like, Mr. Kindly, you bastard. But I was also like, Mia, you sent him away. You deserve this pain. But then it turns out Mr. Kindly was just waiting for her, and then he just sided with her anyway, and he came home, and he was like, oh, Mr. Kindly. One thing I did find really hard, especially in the beta, and even so much now, the fight between her and Cleo and the fight between her, Mia, and Julius at the end, I found it really hard to kind of picture because of the shadows. And like the shadows have always been something that I've struggled to picture because I mean you get shadows like shadows, but I always pictured them more as like smoke. So just trying to see that in my head was a tough one. Alias burning the library down when Mia like beat Cleo and inhaled everyone, that was bittersweet because he finally got to die. Trick sacrificing himself so Ash could come back to Mia was the greatest fucking thing of all time. I mean, it wasn't because it was heartbreaking, but Trick is the softest cinnamon roll ever. That boy is pure gold in the heart. That boy loved that girl, but he knew that that girl loved that other girl more, and he was like, fine, I will go and die, and I will show Ash how to get back so she and Mia they can be together. God damn it! I love Trick. Trick is my bias. And then for like 2.5 seconds there, Adonai was the real MVP when he just killed Skaver, and he's like, ha ha ha, and then he just... Nope, that was gone. That didn't happen. That wasn't happening. Mr. Kindly getting his revenge on Whisper for Eclipse. They finally... I knew they loved each other. Bonifazio being Cloud's real name. I was like, anticlimactic. Sid and Bladesinger getting married was weird. Like, why? Why did they need to get married? Then Marielle's teaching John and blood magic, and he's the Lord of Blades, or Mercurio's the Lord of Blades now, and they're like redoing the Red Church. But anyway, the main thing is Mia and Ash lived happily ever after as immortals. Jay made the gays immortal, put them in a nice little house by the ocean with their cat, and let them live happily ever after. That's it. That's what they're doing. All I can imagine is Mia and Ash fucking every day, drinking wine together, talking to Mr. Kindly, and being fucking adorable. That's how it ended. That's how the Nevernight Chronicles ended. With Mia and Ash immortal. And thus the conclusion of the Nevernight Chronicles. I mean, to me it still doesn't feel over, and I don't know if that's just because I'm making the film and hoping to make more of the films that it's not completely over yet. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the way it ended. I'm happy with all of the characters, and except Trick. I love him. Rip Trick. I'm sure no doubt I will have more Darkdawn / Nevernight related videos coming out in the future, obviously with Nevernight coming out, so you can just stay tuned to that because it's never over for me. It'll never be over for me. Anyway, that was my thoughts and feelings on Darkdawn by J. Kristoff. I highly recommend you go and read it. He signed this one. What does it say? You're 100% amazing. Fuck you, J. Kristoff. 100% amazing. You bitch. I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thank you, J. Kristoff, for a wonderful series. We love you. We love Mia. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.